everyone. Welcome to the Fortress of Solitude podcast. I'm your host, Sergio Pereira, and I'm flying solo today. But I'm flying solo, and I'm going to be chatting about something that I'm pretty excited about, and that's Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City. Now, I'm sure you guys have noticed that it's the brand new Resident Evil movie. It's a complete reboot of the series, completely separated from what Paul W.S. Anderson did with all those other Resident Evil movies in the past. And it's kind of interesting because it's been a lot of debate online about the fans, because Resident Evil is one of those video game franchises that's near and dear to many people's hearts, especially as old school PS1 gamers who grew up, playing the likes of Resident Evil and Resident Evil 2. And obviously, Anderson's movies, they were very different. Alice was suddenly, the lead character. Alice wasn't really a character from the games. And, it's really diverted away from what the games were about. There was obviously some semblance, some similarities there, if you want to put it that way. Obviously, the zombie thing. But for the most part, it kind of was its own beast. And that created a lot of dissension between fans at times. Nobody was certain if, can you really consider this a Resident Evil movie? Now, Johannes Roberts, he's the writer and director of Welcome to Raccoon City. And he's like a notorious big fan of the franchise. And he's also a horror director, which helps as well. He did the 47 Meters Down series. He's done a couple other horror movies in the past. And he's promised that this is going to be like a faithful adaptation of the first two games. So it's kind of interesting that he says that, because obviously the eyes are going to be straight on him straight away. Like, is it completely faithful to the first two games? Because they are arguably the most iconic in the series. But I think, judging from what we've seen by the trailer, it seems like they're trying to go the same sort of tone. Even if you look at the monster designs, the character designs, they're trying to not, stray too far from what the source material is, which is actually a really good idea here. Because the thing is, video game adaptations, most people love those characters. Most people get entrenched in those characters for hours. Video games, it's not like a movie. You don't have 90 minutes with a character. You generally have, 30, 40, 50 hours. And some people who are obsessed with it, they might even have years with the game. So I think that's the thing. You grow very close to these characters, like every nuance, every single thing of their personality, you recognize. And suddenly when something changes in a movie, like, that's not the character, that's not Chris, or that's not Claire, or whatever. And obviously, what we've seen so far of Welcome to Raccoon City, they're trying to amend this. Roberts is trying to amend it and trying to show that it's closer to the source material. And like I've said, so far it looks like it. You look at the character designs, you look at the monsters, you look at where it's set. Obviously Raccoon City, and you're like, okay, cool. I'm sold on this, and I'm optimistic about it. I want to see where it goes. The other thing about it that's really good news is the young cast that's involved in this. We're not dealing with a lot of A-list actors here. They are good actors. They are up-and-coming actors, but it's not like one of those names you're going to pick off the list like, oh, this is, somebody that's going to be in a massive, massive blockbuster. Obviously, you've got the likes of John-Kamen, who's really well-known, Robbie Amell, Tom Hopper from Umbrella Academy. We know the sort of characters. McDonough is also a well-known actor, Donald Logue. But they're not those sort of names that are just like, that the whole movie is going to be around them, that they're going to be the centerpiece of it, which I think was probably the biggest issue that existed with the previous Resident Evil movies. It just became the Miller show. And right now, it looks like, it's going to follow more the stories of all these different characters, their specific arcs. And that's really the way you want to see it. You want us to follow all the different characters and the important characters you fell in love with when playing the games. You want to see each of them have equal amounts of screen time. Whether they do or they don't, obviously, we're going to have to tell, when we watch the movie. But it's looking pretty good so far. The other thing that I thought was quite interesting is that the running time of the movie is 107 minutes. Which, in modern times, it is kind of considered a bit short, but I think it's perfect, actually, because do you really want to watch a 2.5 hour to 3 hour zombie movie effectively? I don't want to, I can tell you that much. And I think it's a really good idea to actually keep it a bit shorter, keep it compact, make the action move fast, get the story going. There's no need to, create this build-up here. Like with the Resident Evil games, sure, there were times that, you'd walk around and be building the tension up, and, there would be nothing for a while, and suddenly, boom, something, pops out of the corner or out of the corridor. But this is a movie, you can't necessarily do the same thing. It's a different medium. So I'm actually quite excited to see it is a shorter movie, which is, for me, it's welcome. I think we have way too many movies that are over the 2-hour mark nowadays that don't need to be over the 2 hours, and it's just a lot of filler. So yeah, I'm hoping that this is, that's all killer there basically for those 107 minutes, and we are in for something really, really, really cool. Obviously, the other thing is just, the fan sort of reaction towards this has been quite interesting to see with the movie. I find that a lot more people are really optimistic about seeing this movie. They're like saying, well, cool, it seems closer to the source material, which is what they want. And that leads me to believe that I think the reception towards this movie is going to be a lot better than what we saw in previous times, because everyone just seems to think, well, what, this is closer to what Resident Evil is supposed to be. This isn't like the other movies before it. And I do believe that the series did require a reboot. I think in order to tell a story, no matter like what it did, what tangents it went on, I think they painted themselves into a corner of the previous filmmakers. So they really needed to do something different now, and get it back to basics effectively. And it looks like they've done that, and the fans seem to be like, cautiously optimistic. I think every video game fan is always worried about whenever a video game adaptation is made, because obviously there are certain creative liberties taken when all these things are created into movies. It's not the same thing as with a game where that it follows a certain storyline, certain formulas and all of that, and cutscenes and all this. This is now, it's like a linear story that you have to tell in, whatever, 90 to 120 minutes. So yeah, I think it's looking really positive. And for me, I'm thinking that this could actually be the first real Resident Evil game. Resident Evil movie. I think this could be the real Resident Evil movie that we've all wanted. And I mean, look, it's looking promising so far. Obviously, the proof will be in the zombie pudding on the 3rd of December when it gets released in South Africa. But it's looking like it's ticking all the right boxes here. I mean, I will admit that I was a fan of the previous film series. I enjoyed it for what it was. But at the same time, I can also admit it wasn't really Resident Evil, So for this one, I am really, really excited to see what they do. And most importantly is that if this does really well, I want to see sequels. I want to see the sequels where they carry on the story, they explore the different things of this universe, and build a whole brand new film universe that Resident Evil deserves. But obviously, this we'll have to wait and see. Box office, it says a lot, guys. It says a lot. And ultimately, end of the day, if it does well at the box office, sequels will be greenlit. But it's also up to us. If we enjoy it, we need to tell our friends. We need to go support the movie and go watch it. That's how it works. That's the movie business. It's a business at the end of the day. But I want to hear from you. What do you think of the upcoming Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City? Do you think it will be the first real Resident Evil movie, or do you think it will be more of the same as we saw before? Let me know in the comment section, and while you're at it, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And until next time, cheers.